This is a brief overview of the nervous system. The nervous system includes the brain and nerves of our body. This system is really important because it allows us to sense things such as the sharp pin and to respond to them, such as pulling our hand away, as well as to think and perform all of our other bodily functions by monitoring and controlling them. Now let's talk about the structures of the nervous system that enable it to do all these things. The nervous system consists of two main components, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system includes nerves that are not the brain and the spinal cord. The brain is the central organ of the central nervous system. It controls all our movements, thoughts, and emotions. The brain consists of three basic parts, the hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain. The hindbrain controls our most basic functions needed for survival. This includes respiratory rhythms or controlling how we breathe, movement, and sleep and wakefulness. The midbrain is important for motor and sensory systems and is responsible for motor movement as well as auditory and visual processing. The forebrain controls the most complicated functions of the body, including the body temperature, sleeping, eating, and emotions. We can further divide the forebrain into four parts called lobes. This includes the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. The frontal lobe is the frontal association area. It is responsible for moving as well as higher cognitive processes such as speech, emotion, and decision-making. The parietal lobe is the somatosensory association area. It is responsible for taste, speech, and reading. The occipital lobe is the visual association area responsible for vision. The temporal lobe is the auditory association area responsible for hearing and smell. Now let's look at the second part of the central nervous system, the spinal cord. The spinal cord is divided into four parts called the cervical cord, the thoracic cord, the lumbar cord, and the sacral cord. The function of the spinal cord is to transmit signals between the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system consists of nerves that carry signals to and from the central nervous system. There are two parts of the peripheral nervous system, the motor system and the autonomic nervous system. The motor system carries voluntary and involuntary nerve signals to and from skeletal muscles. The autonomic nervous system carries involuntary nerve signals that control smooth and cardiac muscle and various glands. The autonomic nervous system is composed of two systems, the parasympathetic division and the sympathetic division. The parasympathetic division carries nerve signals that prepare the body to rest and digest, conserving energy. The sympathetic division carries nerve signals that prepare the body for fight and flight, consuming energy. We've talked about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, but what are these systems made of? Well, they're made of nerves, and nerves are made of nerve cells called neurons. A neuron has a cell body with a nucleus and organelles just like any other cell. But what makes it special are its dendrites, axon, and axon terminal. The nervous system needs to send signals to and from different parts of the body, so it does so using an action potential, a charged particle that travels from the axon terminal of one neuron to the dendrites of another. Then it travels down the neuron's axon. It's important that the axon is covered in a fatty layer called the myelin sheath because the myelin sheath provides insulation for it, making sure that the axon potential reaches the axon terminal. This seems like a great system, right? Well, sometimes things go wrong. These are called neurological disorders. Some disorders are inherited, and the person has them their whole life. These are called neurodevelopmental disorders. Some disorders affect the person later on in life. These are called neurodegenerative disorders. An example of a neurodevelopmental disorder is autism spectrum disorder. Autism spectrum disorder is a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. It affects 1 in 54 children in the U.S. today. Scientists still have not found a cure for it, but they do have medication to decrease the symptoms. An example of a neurodegenerative disease is Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is caused by damage to the myelin surrounding the axons of neurons in older people. It causes memory impairment and dementia, eventually leading to death. Similarly, it does not have a cure. It affects 1 in every 10 people that are older than 65 years old. Now let's look at some fun facts and recent studies about the nervous system. Synesthesia is a condition where several senses of a person are connected. So they may, for example, see each sound with a particular color and shape and each number with a personality. This can hinder them in learning math in a foreign language, but help them with memorizing dates, numbers, and having a greater sense of color theory and imagination. A fascinating recent study was done at Stanford this summer. The brains of dead pigs were connected to machines and kept alive for 10 hours after the death of the pig itself. For reference, a mammal's brain usually dies 15 minutes after the death of its host. This was an important breakthrough because it will allow scientists to study the separate sections of the brain in detail without having to interfere with other tissues. These are my works cited. Thank you for watching.